So you want to start building Gunpla and don't know where to begin. That's fine. There's a lot of misinformations and misconceptions about this hobby, as most of the beginners, they become upset and give up after our first few attempts. That's why I prepared this video to help you avoid these pitfalls. If you're looking to start this hobby, stick around as we dive into a beginner's guide into Gunpla. Welcome to Mobile Suit Television. And this is your boy VanGrim. Let's get on to it. Before we get started, there's a few information that we'll tackle. Please note that this video is not how to customize your Gunpla, but rather a beginner's guide in knowing your Gunpla and which one will fit you before starting this hobby and grabbing your first Gunpla model kit. So if you're looking to panel line, paint your model kit and customize, you will not find it in this video. Like I said, this is just a beginner's guide, and if you like this video, please consider liking the video, comment down below for your reactions, questions, and please subscribe and click on the notification bell for future MSTV updates. There are a lot of misunderstanding and misconceptions about this hobby of ours, coming from those folks who discuss Gunpla but doesn't have any idea about this hobby, or from the others who are just starting and led astray due to such information. The first one that we'll tackle is the big answer is no. I believe that Gunpla is about freedom and your imagination. Painting your Gunpla is more of customizing and somewhat going the extra mile to achieve the look that you want. Most of the kits here are already pre-colored for you to snap fit or even install some stickers for some color correction. What you will get out of the box is somewhat a color accurate model kit. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, you can go the extra mile and paint your Gunpla like a lot of collectors or builders out there. My answer to that is no. All of the kits comes with an easy to build instruction. Even for a beginner, you could easily understand the instructions, and it comes with a detailed guide, pictures for you to follow. Now most of the time, if we are talking about the newer Gunpla models, you will not need a glue to snap fit them, unlike the older ones. When I mean old, they're really old, which requires glue to begin with. Assembling are easy nowadays, as illustrations comes with a set of numbers and guides to follow. No need to worry that is a super complex build, as it's more like building a Lego. Just follow the numbers and voila! There you have it. Well, this is quite a difficult one. It's a yes and a no at the same time. It all boils down on how much you're willing to spend. But for beginners, we're talking about beginner's kit. Those kits cost mostly around $10 to $20. For my peeps back home in the Philippines, you'll have to forgive me on this one, as I'm not particularly versed on how much Gunpla prices now are back home, as I haven't been back home for about 9 years now. But what I could give is a rough price when I started Gunpla in 1999. When I started, my first kit was an HG Epion, if I remember it right. It cost back then around 300 to 400 pesos. And I bought it from Landmark Makati. But let this be a warning. If you start, you could sucked in spend money on this hobby. It will be very expensive. I will leave this portion for you to decide. Trust me, it's been tough since I came back to this hobby. But like I said, it's for you to decide. And yes and a no at the same time. Now, if you are a total beginner in this hobby, the big question is, what is Gunpla? It's an official name given by Bandai to their plastic model kits. It's based from a popular anime series, Mobile Suit Gundam. This anime premiered back in 1979. It's about cool robots, should I say, and a struggle between humans and space noids, and a political thing. Well, kidding aside, let's go back to Gunpla. So it's a word combination, Gundam and plastic model, which combines into Gunpla, which means Gundam plastic model. Well, this is particularly disputable because Gunpla is coined by Bandai itself, but it's not attributed directly to only Bandai plastic model kits. There are a lot of third-party makers of Gunpla like Supernova, Dragon Momoko, to name a few. Let's say you have your first Gunpla in front of you. Congratulations! Now let's begin. What tools you may need. If we consider the only basic tool you'll need is a hobby cutter, most commonly known as side cutters, nippers. So please take note that we're not talking about nail nippers. Okay, this tool is what you'll need to separate the parts from the runners. Well, if you don't know what runners are, we'll dive into that later, so don't worry. Now you'll ask me, what brand should I buy? What size? Don't worry, as a beginner, you don't need an expensive one. You only need something that looks like this. And of course, the cheaper cutters will not give you a good cut unlike the expensive ones. But if you want to get things done, just grab a cheap cutter. It will do what it is intended to do. Separate the parts from the runners. Now the other tools that you may need. If you want to go a little deeper, you may need a hobby knife, also known as an X-Acto knife, a sandpaper, and a file. Their main purpose is to clean the surfaces of your parts after separating them from the runners. Like I mentioned earlier, all you need is a side cutter, X-Acto knife, and a file or sandpaper. Now this is your preference. I may say you need a cutting mat. You don't want to scratch the surfaces on your desk. Please don't do that on your dinner table, please. You don't want your mom or wife going haywire on you on this, okay? So let's say you're looking to buy your Gunpla and you haven't found what you're looking for. Don't worry, there are a lot of options available for you. But the vast majority of it, of your Gunpla shopping, will be done online. But of course, there's a lot of retailers who stock Gunpla, particularly if you're living in the Middle East, specifically the UAE. You can approach a number of hobby shops available here, unlike in Japan, that there's even a Gunpla in your local 7-Eleven. Yes, I said 7-Eleven. Even Gunpla goods are available in your local 7-Eleven in Japan. But here in the Middle East, in UAE, you can approach specific shops like Otaku ME, Just DK. I'm not bad-mouthing anyone, but over in Just DK, the stocks are quite limited, unlike in Otaku ME, which have a vast line of model kits available to choose from. I personally live close to their old shop in Dera, which was a few train stops away from my place. But since then, they already moved their showroom to Sheikh Zayed Road, Al Safa too. And yes, you heard me right. There's a number of Gunpla enthusiasts in the Middle East. So if you're one of them who would like to start this hobby, stocks locally are limited, but there's a lot of online stores that carry them, like Hobbylink Japan, Mandarake, eBay, and of course, Amazon, to name a few. There's a vast number of stores you can explore online, so just keep looking. Premium Bandai, or commonly known as P Bandai. It's a name given to a selected number of Gunpla that are only available through Premium Bandai's website. Previously, this was only available in Japan, but in recent times, Bandai has been making their moves to make it available to other parts of the world, like in the USA, Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Singapore, and Japan, of course. The P Bandai kits are limited production lines. Most of the time, they are recolored Gunplas for a particular mobile suit or a pilot, or entirely a new Gunpla. But these things are quite pretty hard to get your hands on and expensive, of course. But you don't have to worry, as this P Bandai, they don't make up a big number of Gunpla available in the markets. Okay, so now you know where to buy and grab them. Now let's talk about Gunpla Grades. What are they? Gunpla Grades are a labeling system created by Bandai to determine the scale, quality, and the price. take note, the price. The grading system will give you the specifics, what you could expect for the Gunpla from an out-of-box build. And these grades are commonly seen outside the box, labeled as HG, MG, PG, to name a few. So once you see them, it's quite easy to distinguish them and learn them in no time. Like I said earlier, these are the grades. HG meaning a high grade kit, RG real grade, MG master grade, PG for a perfect grade, and SD for super deformed. We'll dive into those grades and what do they mean on the next subject, so please stay tuned. Let's start with HG, high grade. What is a high grade? Bandai's HG line is mostly relegated to the 1x144 scale of Gunpla. Most of the time these are one of the cheapest and fastest Gunplas to build. As a beginner in this hobby, I would suggest that you start with an HG. This kit usually lacks in color separation and they compensate that with your traditional stickers, but you are not limited to this. As I said earlier, Gunpla is freedom and imagination. You can paint them if you want to. As time goes by, you get exposed to other Gunpla, you'll see the big difference. The quality of the stickers compared to the ones that are painted. Please note that I'm not hating on this line. This line has the most vast lineup of Gunpla to date, with the sheer number of releases Bandai does for this line. And another thing you'll have to remember, some Gunpla collectors refer to them as HGUC, HGAC, HG00, things like that. And don't get confused about these terms. This usually refers to the timeline where those particular Gunpla belongs to. For example, HGUC. This means High Grade Universal Century, where the original Mobile Suit Gundam belonged to. The Gundam universe has a lot of multiple timelines, so don't get confused. HGAC is High Grade After Colony, and HG00 is referring to Gundam 00s. So don't get confused about these terms. They're all high grades. It's just that they're referring to is the timeline where those Gunpla model kits belong to. So let's dive into the MG line, the Master Grade line, which I am a fan of. Most of the collectors, this is the sweet spot, as the size, the articulation, the color separation, color accuracy and details are what this line of Gunpla is for. If you're asking what scale the Master Grade line is, it's 1x100 scale of Gunpla. If you're asking how difficult it is to build a Master Grade, don't get intimidated. Once you get started with an HG and you get a hang of it, you will find building a Master Grade is just a step up from your typical HG build. Most of the time, this Master Grade kits comes with a complete frame and where outer armor are installed. So when I said most of the time, not all of them, as the earlier versions of the Master Grade lines had a frame that did not make the whole structure of the Gunpla. They only feature the predominant parts you can expose to add a little spice into the build. But in recent technology, Bandai's engineering has been able to release quite a few masterful looking Master Grades that you can admire even without an outer armor. You also have to take into consideration, as I mentioned, new technology and engineering of Bandai. Number of Master Grades has been given a 2.0 or even a 3.0 version. What this means is the design and look has been ramped up to keep up with the newer engineerings and technology that Bandai applies to each and every master grade. So as the time passes by, which means in layman's terms, the version of that particular Gunpla was given a remaster from their old counterparts. Another thing that you'll probably hear from Gunpla enthusiasts is a Verca master grade. What it means is this is a gun line of Gunpla or master grade designed by the mecha designer Hajime Katoki. This means is the designs and look and build has been ramped up to keep up with the newer engineering and technology that Bandai applies to each and every master grade. Well, recently there was a new Verca that was released, which was coined as MGEX, which means Master Grade Extreme Verca. There was only one kit released so far of Gundam Unicorn with all the LEDs, including even the shield that it comes with. This is quite a step up from what Bandai usually does, because most of the LEDs, will get into it in the PG line, but most of the LEDs were limited to the Perfect Grade line. But now Bandai has somewhat made a crossover and have it available in the Master Grade line. So thumbs up for Bandai for doing it, but of course what you could expect is additional features, which means additional cost. The Master Grade EX is one quite expensive kit to begin with. The Real Grade line, or RG Gunpla. It's like a mixture of both the HG and the MG line of Gunpla. This particular line is limited to 1/144 scale, as the HG of Gunpla, but with the masterful design, color separation, and articulation, and an inner frame, a lot like a master grade. The earlier Real Grade kits came with a pre-assembled inner frame known as the MS joint, but in recent times Bandai has been moving away and keeping only a few MS joints limited to one kit. They're now applying the same principles as a master grade, where you assemble the inner frame, unlike the MS joint where it's already pre-assembled and you just bend them into place. The main problem with the earlier Real Grade lines was due to this MS joint. In time, this tends to become loose, and you can just imagine holding a grenade-like Gunpla on your hand. Anytime it could explode into pieces, as they are already loose. Trust me on this part. So if you really want to grab a Real Grade, I suggest to grab the newer ones. The newer ones are pretty stable and fun to build. I'm not hating on the older Real Grade lines, but this principle applies to all Gunplas in particular. Older kits are far less technologically advanced comparing to newer ones, where Bandai has already somewhat perfected how you build the kit, so you don't have this pretty loose parts to begin with. It's just suggestions. It's still up to you whether you want to grab the older ones. The Perfect Grade line, PG of Gunpla. This is considered the best line of Gunpla. This grade usually gives you a ton of surface details and gimmicks. Some of the gimmicks include having an LED with the kit to add the vibe to each build. But like I said, a lot of them, not all of them, have this. Perfect grades are 1/60 scale, and the most expensive line of Gunpla out there. But the thing with the Perfect Grades, the selection of models for this particular line is quite limited. Bandai usually comes out with a Perfect Grade every few years, but this title name suggests perfect. No one Gunpla kit is perfect. It will have its flaws in some manner. As I mentioned earlier, older kits uses far less technology and engineering compared to newer ones, and the same thing applies as well to the Perfect Grade line. So we've gone through the main ones that Bandai releases, but there are still a few grades that Bandai produces for Gunpla collectors. We'll go through them one by one. So the first one will be the FG, or first grade. This line is super cheap. It comes in one color only. The first one of this lineup came out in 1999, the year where I started with Gunpla, which are the regular Zaku, the Char Zaku, and the granddaddy of Gundam, the RX-782 Gundam. But recently, in 2017, to be exact, there was another release of the FG rather, 4 of them, all coming from the Gundam 00 series. But this time around, they molded it in separate colors. Approximate cost of these kits would be around $10 or less. The second one will be the advanced grades, and you guessed it right, it's AG rather. This line started in 2011. It's the same as the FG or first grade, but it only features mobile suits coming from the Mobile Suit Gundam Age series. As I mentioned earlier, it is the same as FG. It is also limited to 1/144 scale, but unlike the earlier versions of the FG, this comes in separate colors. This line of AG approximately run from 2011 to 2012 and had a total of about 24 kits released for this line. So you also have to take note that each advanced grades comes with a microchip that you could use in Gundam Gauging Games Arcade. Well, same as the FG, this cost around $10 or less. Third one on this other grades of Gunpla is the 1/100 scale. It's sorta like an HG in size of a master grade line, and the name itself says this line are in 1/100 scale, but some collectors refer to them as no grade. But this term was not officially coined by Bandai. There are some kits that came out on the 1/160 scale, but nowadays those ones are pretty rare. Average prices for 1/100 scale is about $20 to $50. Fourth one on this installment is the other line is the RE100, meaning reborn 1/100. It is like the line of Gunpla that are in between an MG and an HG Gunpla. But in recent times, the reborn 1/100 have been coined as a grade where somewhat huge kits or not particularly famous mobile kits are being released, and the quality has been stepped up comparing to the earlier releases. Another entry into this 1/100 line is the full mechanics line of 1/100 scale Gunpla. When it first released by Bandai, it primarily centered on the IBO kits, meaning Iron-Blooded Orphans anime series, and as of late, a new full mechanic kits is releasing, apart from the IBO, which is the Calamity Gundam from the anime series Gundam Seed Destiny. So let's see if Bandai pushes through in releasing other somewhat not popular Gundam kits and push them into the full mechanics line. Fifth one will be the mega size line, coming at a whopping 1/48 scale. These kits are huge, towering over a perfect grade Gunpla in size comparison. This line usually is the same quality as the HG, yet in a massive form factor of a 1/148 scale. The difference between an HG and the mega size obviously is the size, but what lacks in the HG is the upside for the mega size is the surface detail of each mega size kit. But unfortunately, this line has a slim number of kits. You could choose from 6 models only, to be exact. The average price for this line is about $80 to $100 if you are on the lookout for this one. final entry into this other grades of Gunpla is the SD Gunpla, or Super Deformed. This line of Gunpla is like a chibi style of Gunpla reimagined. This various mobile suits of this particular line is quite vast. And recently, Bandai has been releasing the SDCS line, where you can build your Gunpla to have a simple inner frame to have a more stylish design. The average size of this Gunpla is between 3 to 4 inches, depending on the mobile suit design, and the average prices run from about $10. Now we've gone through the different Gunpla grades, it's time to start and purchase your first Gunpla. The big question is, what should you buy first as a total beginner? My recommendations will be the HG or high grade line. This particular line is easy to get your hands on, easy to build, and once you get accustomed to this line, then you can advance to the other grades down the line. So before you start into this hobby, like they say, patience is a virtue. Building any Gunpla is a long and tedious process. You have to keep that in mind. Just take your time, specifically when you venture into other grades of Gunpla. The most simple advice that I would give is relax, take your time, enjoy the process. Building Gunpla should not be a chore, and it should be fun and relaxing experience. Remember, nobody should build a Gunpla if they think it is a stressful hobby to begin with. Now let's go for the Gunpla terminologies. The first thing that you'll need to know is what are those sheets of plastic holding your Gunpla in hold? These are commonly called as trees, trays, sprues, or even plates. But the correct term to use for them are runners. Then the small plastic that connects them on each part are called gates. Then the remaining scratches on the plastic after you cut them from the runners are called gate marks, nub marks, or just plain old nubs. You'll find a ton of videos here on YouTube on how to properly remove them. The second thing that you'll need to know is the polycaps, those soft plastic included in your Gunpla. They are the joint parts for the Gunpla to hold it in place for a specific use, for its articulation. Commonly, these polycaps are squeezed into the armor or in the inner frame to allow articulation, like I said, on your Gunpla. So as we are wrapping up this episode of Beginner's Guide to Gunpla, I mentioned earlier, building a Gunpla should not be a stressful experience. Hey, Bandai's tagline is fun to build Gunpla. Like it said, it should be fun to build your Gunpla. Relax, take your time, enjoy the process. Who knows? You could be the next legendary builder in coming years, just waiting to be exposed and find your niche in this ever-growing Gunpla community. And as always, thank you so much for your support. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell for future updates on MSTV. This is your boy VanGrim for Mobile Suit Television, and I'll see you on the next MSTV.